What are they putting into our food to make us sick? Because it comes down to, unfortunately, following the money. Name it, blame it, see a specialist for it, take a pill for it. But the shift is happening. That's the blessing. I believe there is a true paradigm shift happening as we speak on many levels. But people are waking up to that. Just growing your own food, outsourcing from local ranchers or farmers, organic is the way to go.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Audacious Faith Podcast, where we believe that you need to have the audacity to believe that God put you on this earth not just to exist, but to make a huge difference in the world. We get some great guests on here. Today is definitely one of those days. I'm excited to have our guest with us. Her name is Danielle Rambur, and she is an author. We're definitely going to want to talk about her book a little bit. She's a cancer survivor. That launched her into a story and a journey that many people are very much looking for today and in need of today, which is natural health and what's really happening. Why are so many people getting sick? What's going on? And is there anything that we can actually do about it? And I believe the answer to that, as we're going to see today, is yes. So, Danielle, so great to have you with us today and appreciate you taking the time to join the podcast.
It's my honor, and I just love how God is always interweaving, and every meeting is a divine appointment. It's not a coincidence, and the fact that we found each other and we can share our gifts together is just a blessing. So thank you for having me.
Amazing, amazing. It's going to be good. And I know you're exactly right. I believe in what you're saying, those divine appointments. And this podcast is going to come into a divine intersection, I'm sure, with some people out there that really need to hear what's going to be said today. So tell us a little bit about you, Danielle, maybe a little of your journey, how you even got to this point. Why, this is a big question here, but why even is faith a big part of this? And how does it all tie in?
Yeah. Well, I grew up on a cattle ranch in eastern Montana, oldest of four girls. So that kind of ties into my resiliency because it gets down to, 60 below zero up there. So we had to work in that, and we knew what it was like to work hard. So I think, through the struggles within your life, growing up in that atmosphere definitely helps. But yeah, I grew up in eastern Montana. I went to college in North Dakota, and had my son Matthew. He's 28 years old. Yeah, it's just been a journey. I lived in Montana, North Dakota, and then I moved to Colorado, where I was a realtor. And my faith and where it all, comes in. I grew up going to church, but I can honestly say I didn't know Jesus.
Mm.
I felt like I was just going through the motions, and became pregnant out of wedlock, and it didn't feel good going to church at that point. So that was a struggle for me, and I kind of fell away from the church. And my journey, basically, when I was 37 years old, I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, BRCA1 positive. And my son, a month earlier, had been assaulted at school. And I think the stress of that just set the cancer into play. And so, I just, I'm a cowgirl. I got back on the horse and I'm like, okay, we got this. I'm going to rush through it. I'm going to make it happen. I only knew Western medicine. Seven surgeries, 8 rounds of chemo, 5 hospital visits, and on oxygen for months. It was just a really dark time. My son, I was a single parent, and he just really couldn't survive that. I mean, he didn't know how to deal, so he turned to drugs.
Mm.
And so, that just created more struggle for me. And my relationship I was in, didn't quite make it either. So I was really in a dark place, Jay. And I honestly was at a point where I didn't want to be here anymore because I just kept fighting and my body just kept failing. And it was Easter Sunday, and I have goosebumps, God bumps every time I share this journey. But I was in Denver at the time, and Easter Sunday, I was bald, recovering. It was 2015, and someone kept inviting me to church. And there's the power of continuing to invite people to church. And I said yes. And the message that day was, God's silence is not an indicator of his absence. Hold on, he's got a plan for you. You just can't see it yet. And I literally walked out crying 3 times. And it changed my life. It changed my life in so many ways, Pastor Sean Johnson. And I just knew that if I could get through this, that I could, with that hope and with God by my side, I could help other people through their stuff. And that's what started my faith journey. And it's only been a little over 10 years, but it's just continues to bless me, and my heart is to bless others too, because I know what it's like to be in the darkness. And when you're pulled out of the darkness into the light, I feel like you can't just sit there. You got to go back, because there's so many people dealing with things right now, and your story could be the key that unlocks someone else's prison. So that's what I've done.
Absolutely. Wow. I really appreciate you sharing that. And you're mentioning about that dark place and how difficult it must be to be in that situation. And I'm sure that there's people that might be stumbling upon this right now
Mhm.
who kind of feel that isolation, that dark place. It was kind of a heaviness, I'm sure. And you mentioned the persistence of somebody who just kept. I think too often we give up on people, don't we? We ask once or maybe even twice. We don't want to get rejected again, so it becomes about us and we quit asking. How many
Right.
times did they ask you?
I'd say 4 or 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most people would have quit after two.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I invite people to church all the time, and I don't quit until they ask me to please stop, because it could be that one time. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. So the timing was right that
Hmm.
particular day after they asked you 4 or 5 times, and then you finally went. And you mentioned earlier divine appointments, and I know that that was definitely one of those, right?
Definitely.
So you went through a very difficult time, your son as well. I mean, it must have been extremely scary because everything I'm assuming just seemed completely out of control to you. Your health, then you're trying to just deal with yourself, and then you've got your son that you love and you care about, and things are out of control there. You mentioned being where you really didn't even want to be there anymore. So what held you from not making that completely drastic thing? Was it your son, or what was it that kept you here?
Yeah, at that point, it was my son. I couldn't do that to him, and I just, I had a knowing. I had a knowing that God would use this for good. I really did, and He has. So, but yeah, I couldn't do that to my son.
Yeah, sometimes it gets to the point where, I mean, we may not even care as far as ourself anymore, but there's just somebody else that still needs us. So um, you use that. So when you went through that situation, and that's part of what spurred on what you're doing now, correctly? Because not only do you want to bless people and help people, but what have you discovered? You mentioned you were kind of tied into Western medicine, and of course, they basically just don't get to the root of it. They just treat the symptoms, and that's something we're seeing over and over again.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of get this interest or this transition into natural health and healing and all of that?
Yeah, well, I left the relationship that I'd been in. I was engaged and together for quite some time, and started over. And honestly, I needed mental health help. I had another situation. I was on several medications at the same time that I shouldn't have been, that I almost overdosed, not
Mm.
on purpose. But I needed mental help. I really did. I had survived cancer, and we have survivor guilt. That's a thing, especially when you see young children pass or deal with cancer. And then, my son was still an addict. I left the relationship. So I went on a healing journey to Sedona, of all places. And, that's known for being pretty woo woo. But for me, it was very, very magical.
Yeah.
I met she was a holistic doctor and psychologist, and she introduced me to energy medicine. And at that point, I was going to remove my breasts again after 4 reconstructive surgeries, because I was in so much pain. And
Mm.
all 3 of my little sisters have the gene. And now I've learned more about epigenetics, but at that point, I didn't want them to ever have to go through what I went through. So it was a product that you took home and laid on. And I said, I have nothing to lose, everything to gain. And within 4 days, my discomfort was gone. I canceled that surgery. That was over 9 years ago.
Mm.
And within a few months, I was off all pharmaceuticals. And we are made in the image of God, and our bodies are made to heal and restore themselves. They just don't have the energy to do so.
Mm.
And, and then a big part of it too with the psychologist is, the body can be very miraculous when it's aligned with the beliefs, right? And your thoughts, your words, your emotions, that all affect your body's ability to heal. And so the forgiveness, right? Forgiving people, getting to the bottom of situations that I was holding on to that was also affecting my health. So yeah, that started it. And when those things started happening to my body, I just knew that's why God kept me here. There was a no doubt in my mind. And it was hard to start because I was in Eastern Montana and it's a bunch of farmers and ranchers, and this is woo-woo energy medicine.
Right.
But like my great aunt started golfing again at 90 years old, and people saw things and doctors started seeing things and asking about it, and it just grew. And so it's been really beautiful to see people take their health into their own hands, but it's also been healing for me knowing that my pain wasn't in vain.
Absolutely. And you're touching on something so powerful. And you're saying it sounds woo-woo. And I know as you're even mentioning, I'll just tell you, I'll be honest with you. I mean, my default, because I'm definitely a believer in natural medicine, but the default setting is when you say, "Oh, I just went home on this thing and laid on it."
Mhm.
People are like, "Come on." I mean, we were so conditioned to going, that can't possibly work. It's got to be some type of drug, or it's got to be some type of something to alter and all of that. And we have to kind of, I think, go back and go, when did this all start? Because I know when I was a kid, I've gotten obviously much older now. Back then, I don't remember people taking all these millions of things that they take for everything now. And there's,
Mhm.
and yet, a lot of the sickness and the disease and the predominance of it that we hear about now, I don't remember it being discussed quite as much back then. It was much more rare. Everything, the diabetes, the mental health wasn't, I mean, people struggled obviously, but it was nothing like it is now. I know from a personal experience after my mom had suddenly passed away with cancer, the doctor decided my dad seemed depressed.
Mm.
And my dad was struggling a little bit with mild dementia. Well, he gave him a very mild, he said the lowest dose of Prozac.
Mm.
And I've got to say that after about a week or so of that, we're like, what in the world is going on with him? And it was just really a mess. And so then we tried to wean him off of it. And honestly, he never did get back to where he was,
Mm.
after that point. I don't know that it was really completely that, but it's just like, why did we even, of course he's going to be depressed. He was married for 40 something years and then suddenly she was gone, but
Mm.
um, we seem to really overdo it today with some of these things. So let's talk about some of the most major things that you're noticing are affecting even not only adults, but kids and everything today. What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, and I have to say, faith and science aren't separate. God
Sure.
designed both.
Mhm.
And we are light beings. We are biophotonic beings carrying God's fingerprint. And he has wrote miracles into the design of creation. We see that with the power of prayer. We see that with the power of forgiveness. And I do believe that when your heart is free, healing will accelerate. So it's not just physical, like I said, it's spiritual and emotional. But, what we see, of course, some of the major issues, and I say God designed our bodies to heal themselves, but we were designed to walk 40 miles a day barefoot and hunt saber-tooth tigers, right? We're not designed to be sitting at a desk all day. We're not designed to be eating foods full of glyphosate. We're not designed to be surrounded by this radiation, right? So what's happening is, even though our bodies were designed to heal themselves, they don't have what it takes to do that. So what we see typically is just, people, they get to a plateau at a certain place with their doctors. Maybe they're taking pharmaceuticals, maybe they're taking, supplements, but it's not getting to your cells and it's not working.
Mhm.
So just what we're seeing is the energy piece in this is just laying on this silly mat. It's giving the body that energy to do what God designed it to do. And I believe it's a tool he gave me that has changed my life. I'm 11 years cancer free. I can't say it's because of my product, but I believe it has something to do with it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just I really believe that there is technology and healing tools out there that are designed to help us. But even if you don't have that, grounding, we're walking with soles on our shoes, we're walking on concrete, getting outside and getting that your feet in the ground, and just really unplugging a little bit and really tuning into to him instead of the world and everything around us.
I think you're touching on something that I've heard before. So you're talking about walking around in the shoes and all those type of things. So are you talking then about how they say you're supposed to get barefoot and just kind of get out there and actually touch the soil and all of that? Maybe enlighten us a little bit on that because a lot of people have not heard of that.
Yeah, it's called grounding. I mean, they're talking about grounding sheets and mats and different things. And so the earth has a frequency,
Hmm.
and it's very healthy. You can look it up. It's the Schumann's resonance. And that varies, and it's been varying quite a bit since the introduction of 5G. So it's actually varying quite a bit. It's changing day to day, but just by doing that, you're getting that earth frequency. And they call the Schumann's resonance the heartbeat of the earth. So by doing that, it's just activating the healing within you for
So,
free.
so how long do you like? Is there a length of time? I mean,
Yeah,
I started trying to do this when I first heard about this a few years ago. So I purposely would walk out in my front yard like barefoot and stand there for a little bit, but then I get bored.
I
So
know.
I don't know how long it's supposed to be.
Yeah, if you could do 10 minutes like 3 times a week, that would be great for you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mhm.
That's not
Yeah.
much. I mean, a person
Yeah.
could sit there. The only problem is I was sitting there playing on my phone, which is probably the radiation in my hand. So was I defeating the purpose or what was I doing?
Yeah, I mean, you really got to tune into source when you're doing that.
Got it. Got it.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's one area that people are just
Mhm.
not doing.
Mhm.
What are some of the most harmful things that people are maybe overtaking and not realizing that when they think they're helping themselves, they're actually hurting themselves?
Yeah, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not a physician,
Sure.
but what I see, I don't want to get into it, but the vaccines, there's a lot of bad stuff in there that can harm the body, and I don't think we need as many of them. We see a dialysis center on every corner now, and that's because of pharmaceuticals. I think, we didn't used to see that, but people have been so programmed to be on pharmaceuticals for so long that their kidneys are failing,
Mm.
and we're seeing a lot of that as well. Yeah, I mean, really, it's just getting tuned into light. We are light beings, and getting tuned into the light in the morning. Early morning light's so good for you without your sunglasses, sunscreen, any of that type of stuff. But really, just getting into nature and reconnecting with God's creation.
So you mentioned the sunscreen and all of that. I've had arguments with people on this. Um, like when I'm taking the youth group and I'm taking somebody's kids to the beach and like, make sure they put on the sunscreen. And one time I turned and I said, sunscreen's for wimps. And then the mom got kind of mad at me, especially when the kid came back a little sunburned. But, I was thinking back to when I was a kid, I'd go out in the sun for hours and it didn't seem to be a problem. Now apparently it's a problem. I realize it can be overdone, but at the same time, they're talking about everyone, getting the skin cancers and all of that. And I don't remember as much skin cancer before everybody was putting all the lotion and everything on them, which makes me suspicious.
Hmm.
Is there some validity to my concern here?
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, there are some sunscreens out there that are good. I actually have some information here with a company I just ran into, but the good sun that we are lacking, that vitamin D, is typically before 10 a.m. But yeah, definitely a lot of those sunscreens. I mean, the skin is the largest organ, right, to
Mhm.
detoxify, and so we really need to be wary of what we're putting on it in order to get rid of those toxins that we need to release.
So you mentioned how the big organ it is. So when we put things on the skin, it
Mhm.
goes right through into the bloodstream, correct?
Right, right. So perfumes, lotions, anything.
So basically, it's almost the equivalent of ingesting it.
Yeah.
And
I have lotion that you can actually lick and face cream and all of it.
okay, and we don't think of that. Usually, we'd be thinking, "Oh no, you're not going to eat face
Right.
cream or something like that." But really, you're almost doing the same thing when you're putting things on. I mean, it may not be going through your digestive tract
Mhm.
directly, but you're still getting into your system. Um, so a lot of people are just doing stuff they don't know. What about, I'm curious, I mean, everything's coming to my mind of stuff I've
Yeah.
heard before. So what about things like shampoos, conditioners, different things like that? We've heard so much mixed reviews on those.
Yeah, and I haven't really researched much. I mean, I do have some organic ones that I use, but I really couldn't get into talking about that as much. But same thing, you're getting into your skin on your head.
What's going on there? Okay.
Mhm.
So you mentioned vitamin D. Apparently, from what I've been told, that's one of a very crucial thing that we need to have into our bodies. A lot of things reap havoc when we don't have it.
Mhm.
And I know that the overwhelming majority of people, at least in the United States, are vitamin D deficient in some way,
Mhm.
which is causing a lot of issues. Even during COVID, we heard about the connection of vitamin D levels. I know I was trying to supplement myself during that time a
Mhm.
lot, trying to with that and zinc and things like that.
Mhm.
Are we then really losing out because we're inside so much?
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny. I live in Southwest Florida now, and I did some testing with a naturopathic doctor. It was last year, and
Hmm.
he's like, "You are lacking vitamin D," and I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm outside all the time." He's like,
Hmm.
"You're not getting the good sunlight, and you need to get it really in your eyes before 10 a.m." And I'm like, "Huh."
In your
I
eyes.
Yeah, no sunglasses. You need to be out there and as much as your body as you can get that good sunlight before 10 a.m.
Okay, that's why I tell people it's a good thing I don't have hair because I can just get it right direct in there, right? Nothing
Perfect.
blocking. Yeah. Um, I've been told it's a solar panel, but in this case, it's correct.
Well, that's
So
good.
it,
It's charging your cells, that solar panel.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So you're saying before 10 a.m. That I have
Hmm.
not heard. I have been on an app before, which was telling me like 11:30, 12 when it's at, but why before 10?
Yeah, I didn't get into it. That's just what the doctor that I was working with told me to
Okay.
do. So.
And most people shield their eyes from it, or so not, are we looking directly into it or just, no,
No, you're
just
not looking directly into it, just going about whatever you're doing outside, whether you're grounding or whatever you're doing. But nope, you don't have to look into the sun. That's not healthy.
gotcha. Okay.
Hmm.
So let's talk about some of the other things, the radioactivity. We
Hmm.
live in a world of electronic devices. We're using them right now as we do this podcast. Got a laptop in front of me. I have a phone sitting on the laptop, which had your profile and information right there. Don't mean to sound like a stalker, but we were doing this, right? And all of this radioactivity around us, we have it in our hand a good majority of the day. We have them in our pockets,
Hmm.
tablets, you name it, all of this. Now we're talking about AI glasses that are coming into play, virtual reality devices that people are
Hmm.
doing. So how is this affecting? It seems so awesome, but you say there's some health effects.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of good that's coming with technology, with like what you're doing right now, our way to
Mhm.
communicate with each other. But, there's also can be some not so good. But really, it's the radiation we're being exposed to. There's a documentary out, and it came out in 2017, and that was actually before 5G. And it's called Generation Zapped, and it's pretty amazing. And in 2017, it said we're exposed to a quintillion times more radiation than we were 10 years ago. So that would have been, 2007. So now I can't even imagine, with the 5G, 6Gs coming out. So yeah, it's affecting our cells. It's affecting our body's ability, the energy to heal. And there's simple things you can do. I think we talked about this before, but not to wear those AirPods, to hardwire into your phone. Um,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
see people with those constantly.
oh, well, before I knew better, I did the same thing, but I started getting a ringing in my ear and I realized what I was doing, because you think you've got Bluetooth. banging across from your brain, your blood-brain barrier. So it's not really that healthy. So shutting off your Wi-Fi at night, keeping your phone, in another room is definitely, healthier for you. There's just little things we can do, not putting it, directly on your body. I know a lot of women will put it, and I even did where I had my cancer. I didn't do it often, but I remember a few times I would just put it in my bra right there because I had to go do something,
Yeah.
Well, guess where my cancer was, and they see that too in the documentary. So, it's just kind of taking some time away from it as much as we can. I notice when I hold my phone for too long, I'm getting like an arthritis in my hand. I can feel it.
I never even thought of that, honestly.
Yeah.
But so it's better. So let's say I'm sitting at a desk like I am right now. I
Mhm.
mean, it's better that I don't keep that phone in my pocket at times like that. I mean, obviously, I feel that I have need for it because people are communicating or messaging to me. So it's better if I just stick it a little further away on the desk or something, right? I mean, than, yeah, than having it right there. Okay. So
Mhm.
I think you touched a nerve when you said put your phone in the other room when you're sleeping at night.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so I mean, it really literally needs to be, it's better if it's that far.
Yeah, or put it on airplane mode, whatever, just so you're protecting yourself. But a few feet is fine too, but just to keep it not by your head.
Uh, I'm feeling convicted right now because it charges like really pretty close to where my head is. It's my alarm clock.
I
Maybe I should
know.
get a regular alarm clock. Um, gotcha. All right. Well, I know you're hitting some things that people are going, that's my life, right?
Yeah.
And what about maybe you know about this. I'm just throwing everything out there. You
Yeah.
know, they talk about when you go to bed not to be sitting there scrolling on your phone while you're going to go to
Mm.
sleep. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, so it affects your circadian rhythm and your melatonin. It's the light on the screens. So I have these are blue light glasses that I wear at my computer during the day. I have nighttime ones that I wear when I watch TV about 2 hours before I go to bed. I put them on.
Hmm.
Of course, the color on your shows is not as great, and same with your phone, but it's protecting. So it's helping you sleep better and create better sleep
So
process.
a lot of people don't sleep well,
Mm-hmm.
and they're thinking they don't even know why because I mean it's not like they shouldn't be tired.
Mm-hmm.
And yet people are tired and they go to sleep and the sleep is not steady. They have trouble going to sleep. We used to think it was just anxiety, but a lot of times I know for me even it's like I'm not anxious about anything, so why can't I fall asleep? And so a lot of these things are then affecting what's going on. All right.
Yeah.
So I like to, play fantasy sports. I like to sit there in bed and make my picks before going to sleep, and I get tired, but
Yeah.
I've been doing a
Yeah,
lot of things wrong.
just get some glasses and put those on and that'll help you.
So you get glasses like that, what, just on anything like Amazon or anything like that?
Yeah, you can do Amazon. There's different kinds that are better. So I would just True Dark's a good brand. There's lots of different brands that are out there.
Nice. Well, let's talk about the effect on children. Okay,
Mm,
what is going on
mm,
with kids today? No attention span.
mm,
Um, the things that I used to do as a kid, I was an only child, and I remember um, going over to relatives' houses or whatever, and I was just told, you're gonna sit there. I
mm-hmm,
mean, and I didn't have a tablet to play on. I didn't have any of those type of things. I just sat there sometimes for hours while the adults had a conversation, and I was able to do that. I don't know a lot of kids today that are able to do that. You can't, they literally have to have something every second and I'm seeing this over and over again. I'm trying to figure out what in the world has happened. So what's
yeah.
going on? What are some of the contributing factors you think to what's going on with kids?
Yeah, definitely the technology. I mean, you think, unfortunately, I feel like we're going to have a lot of infertile people in the next few decades just because of these children. A mother may be sitting with her iPad in her lap while she's pregnant, right? And the child is exposed to that at that point. Then, it's like it becomes a babysitter. You're driving, you've got the TVs or you've got the iPads in the laps, you've got and you're always giving them the technology, and then you get into, all the social media and the algorithms and the constantly being fed different things, and we just can't concentrate. I feel like it's happened to me, as adults. It's affecting a lot of us. So yeah, it's really serious. And I just think, I mean, there was one thing that I would have taken back. My son liked to do video games, and I let him, and if I could go back, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things I would have taken away from him,
Mhm.
was the video games, because not only, being there in front of that, but just what they're exposed to, you know.
So is it something that can be in moderation? So let's say
Yeah.
a person wanted to do a video game, you don't want to take it away completely, but you just limit the time?
Yeah, and definitely what's going on inside those video games. It depends, there's a lot of different things that are, disengaging and not healthy for our children.
Very true. So
Mhm.
simulation things like video games, even some of the music, some of the different things that we don't filter out consciously because of the
Yeah.
messages that are there, and yet they're still there. I
Mhm.
know I've taught this many times through the years as I've worked with youth groups and everything, and they're like, well, I just like the sound of the music.
Mm.
And I don't even pay attention to the words because I'm pointing out, like, would you go into, let's say you're going to date someone, would you go to their parents and say these things that you're hearing in the music? They'd kick you out of the house.
Right.
They'll, well, I don't pay attention to the words, and yet they know all the words,
Hmm.
and then they can repeat the whole thing. So you obviously paid attention even if you didn't. Um,
Subconscious programming. It's real.
yes, stuff that we have, we may not be, I think it's more dangerous when we're not really consciously paying attention because we can reject things when we're consciously paying attention, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't when it's the other way. And you touched on something too. If my daughter and son-in-law are watching this, I have a wonderful grandson, by the way, who
Hmm.
does fill my life with some joy. But I
Hmm.
will say that I've been guilty of it too. One of the easiest things to get him to just if they have to take him somewhere, it's just stick the phone in front of him with the Mickey Mouse Club or whatever right in front of him. He's just holding the thing. I mean, we went on a flight and there it was the whole time, because that's what kept him occupied. But that becomes a problem when it's constantly like that, huh?
Yeah, it's convenience, just like McDonald's, if we're feeding our children fast food all the time, right? It's a convenience. However, the long-term damage is real, and it can be.
Yeah. So we've got pharmaceuticals, we've got electronic devices. What about in the foods? So you're talking about diets and things like that. I mean, I was handed Man, I shouldn't even put this on screen. Yesterday, somebody came yesterday, and I was handed things like this and and this and
Hmm.
all of these things, and of course, something that I don't even like, but I see a lot of kids just eating it like crazy. It's like flaming hot Cheetos and all of these things that have a ton of chemicals. I was challenged not too long ago to always look at the label
Hmm.
and to look for things that are on the label. And I found it to be very discouraging because stuff that looked really good and I wanted to eat, and there was modified cornstarch and high fructose corn syrup and sunflower oil. It seems to be in just about everything. And um, what is that stuff doing to our body?
Oh, I mean, it's unbelievable, honestly. I know so many people who are gluten intolerant, that I don't think that was a thing 25 years ago, really.
Right.
Celiacs or any of that, but it really comes into how the crops are grown and then the ultra processing of it in order to make it last longer, right? Like for example, I bought a loaf of bread. I don't eat bread very often, but I just bought a loaf of bread October 1st, and December 15th, I hadn't ate it yet and it was fine. I'm like, this is not normal, right? So it's interesting to go over to Europe because I have friends that are gluten intolerant, and they can eat pasta, they can eat bread, they can do all of the things, right? So what are they putting into our foods, to make us sick? Because, it comes down to, I mean, unfortunately, following the money of, name it, blame it, see a specialist for it, take a pill for it, all of that.
Like a vicious cycle,
Yeah,
right?
unfortunately. But the shift is happening. That's the blessing. I believe there is a true paradigm shift happening as we speak, on many levels. But people are waking up to that, and just growing your own food, outsourcing from local ranchers or farmers. Um, you know, Organic is the way to go.
Yeah, so the pharmaceutical industry is a big business. There's no doubt
Hmm.
about it. I mean, we're not going to knock all pharmaceuticals and medicines because obviously there's ones that are good and that are helpful. But it does seem that you can't go to the doctor now without even when you're making the appointment saying, "Will you be wanting this shot today? Will you be wanting to
Hmm.
get this today?" And I'm always like, "No, no, why would I?" I've gone in sick dealing with like pneumonia and things, and then they're trying to give me other vaccination shots and everything when I'm already sick.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at them like, don't you think that probably wouldn't be the wisest thing for me to take right now when I'm
Hmm.
already not fighting things off? And um, but it's obviously it's money, everything that can be produced, and I think people don't realize people just say, "Oh, conspiracy theorists, we hear this all the time." But the reality is, I think we should know that whenever money is involved, people do very weird things. And we're getting all of these things and shots and stuff for things that people have been getting with and their body's been fighting off for decades and decades and decades. And all of a sudden, we need a shot for everything.
Hmm.
Um, is it just a scam or I don't want to put you on the spot here, but what's going
Yeah,
on?
I mean, I don't want to get too into it or too political,
Right.
with any of it, but I can tell you I used to do all of them, and I don't anymore. And I just realized I recently was at an event with Del Bigtree, and he was the head of MAHA, for quite some time, and works directly with RFK Jr. And
Mhm.
listening to him speak, I realized that my son, and this could have an effect with his addiction and all of it, but the HPV vaccine, why are we giving our babies sexually transmitted diseases when like there's only two ways they're going to get it?
Right.
And so my son, at a young age, he lost feeling in his spine and his legs, and he had lesions. He had lesions on his brain and his spine, and I mean, honestly, power of prayer. We went into the hospital, we treated with steroids, we did the things. And then, we just had so many people praying for him. And then 6 months later, we went to Mayo Clinic, and by the grace of God, his lesions were gone.
Mm,
They labeled it transverse myelitis. First, they thought it was pediatric MS or pediatric cancer. I thought I was bringing my son home in a wheelchair. He was maybe 11 or 12. Not until literally just in October, connecting with Dell and him talking about transverse myelitis, did I realize it was a vaccine injury. And my heart, like I just cried because, as parents, we're just doing what we're told. We believe that that's what they need. And if they're telling us that that's what they need, but honestly, also you need to look at, what they're getting paid for each vaccine that they're giving us, and
right.
that's unfortunate reality that we even have to have these conversations. It's heartbreaking, but I just, yeah, it hit me. It hit me hard because, wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's being tied into a whole system. For example, you're told these are the vaccines they need to get. Often these immunizations or vaccinations are required even for school. They want it for the records when they're going, and so it's kind of like technically have a choice, but they make you seem like a very horrible person if you don't just follow the protocol and do everything that they suddenly decide needs to be added.
And why are there so many more now from when we
Yeah,
grew up? Maybe we had 13 or maybe it was 18. I don't know. Now there's like 80 by the time they go through college.
that's
What is
unbelievable.
this? What
Yeah,
is it?
that's unbelievable.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so all of this is, if people are out here then and we're watching this podcast and you've ever thought to yourself, especially as you get older, what is going on? Why is everything so different? Why is
Hmm.
there the rise of all this mental health so much more than before? So many of these diseases, people getting sick earlier, more cancer earlier in younger people. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to ask the question, hey, something's, it can't be just a coincidence. Something has to be going on. So what are some steps, Danielle, to let's just say that, a person's out there and they're saying, I want to get healthier. Okay. And they've been struggling with a lot of things and they see it in their family and everything. What are some of the most positive, easiest first steps that they can do to start getting on a path of better wellness?
Yeah, I mean, I think easy things that I mean, I think we all falter is our thoughts. Every thought we think is a command to ourselves. And if you study Dr. Emoto, he did studies with water crystals and speaking positive and negative to
Okay.
them. And so choose life-giving thoughts. For me, gratitude and praise. I mean, every morning I listen to worship music. It elevates my frequency. I believe that brings healing.
Okay.
These are just easy things, right? Just to think about. But of course, just recently, Dr. Carrie Madej did a presentation, and they did, it was a group of 12 people, and they did microscopy with their blood, and they did forgiveness and prayer. And literally, you can see the blood change in the body, and life is in the blood, right?
Yeah.
So truly, forgiveness and prayer can change blood, it can change water, it can change the energy in your body. So those are things that I think are really very easy. But of course, just like the grounding, just being aware of the Wi-Fi, the exposure you're being exposed to, and just really believing in yourself, believing in your body, believe what God designed our bodies to heal themselves. And I believe really prayer is one of the most powerful medicines known to man.
So mentality and tuning in
Hmm.
with God and faith and seeing things through the eyes of God rather than the eyes of all the negativity we see around would
Yeah.
be a big important thing. It totally changes your state of mind, right? So
Mhm.
state of mind is huge, you're mentioning. And then from a physical standpoint, which then goes past that, modification of diet. What about things we haven't even asked about this? What about things like fasting?
Hmm. Yeah, diet, exercise, fasting, all of it is great. I mean, I fast for prayer. I haven't done the intermittent fasting per se for health reasons, but I will fast in prayer. But yeah, diet and exercise are, of course, so important. We're they call it sitting is the new smoking, right? The sedentary lifestyle of us sitting at our computers or at a desk all day. So really, getting up, moving around is all of that's free, right?
So
Which is
just taking a
wonderful.
walk even, right,
Yeah,
is just very valuable.
yeah.
Okay, so getting out there. Um, I am a little convicted again as you're bringing this up. I have on my phone, like so many people do, where it keeps track of how many steps.
Mm-hmm.
And my goal is 10,000 steps a day. I know that's supposed to be the magic number, supposedly. And I'm really sad that I'm very rarely hitting that.
Mm-hmm.
And often it's way lower than that because I just sit way too much. And I'll go to the gym, honestly, 4 to 5 days a week for
Mm-hmm.
weight training and things like that, but it's still not a whole lot of walking around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Walking is definitely, it's one of the healthiest things we can do, probably.
Yeah, and it's so easy and it feels good. Go outside, get the fresh air, oxygen. So good.
Right. So oxygen is a big deal as well, right? I've
Mm-hmm.
heard something about it affects even things like if you're trying to lower your blood pressure or whatever, even how you breathe has a big um, influence on that.
Yeah, we're not, that's something you can do too, is just stopping and taking deep breaths. I think we're always on the go and we're do, that we're not like fully breathing. So to
Mm.
breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds, hold it for four and breathe out for four, or do it longer. But just really to stop and get that breath. But yeah, and especially that's why I got into this medicine, energy medicine. Cancer can't survive in an oxygen-rich environment, and
Mhm.
we have 37 trillion cells, and as we age, it's just not, our body's not flowing, moving. And so by getting oxygen to all your cells, that's going to help with everything. I don't care what it is, whether it be our memory, whatever we have going on, is just getting that oxygen out to our cells.
Yes, you mentioned that with the cancer, the oxidation, and then also, what about, I'm going to throw out there the connection to cancer and other diseases in regards to sugar.
That was, and I'll tell you, besides my device, the sugar was the only thing I really cut out or changed. I did eat fairly healthy to begin with, but yeah, sugar, oof, it's in everything.
And so if a person's drinking, say, a Coca-Cola,
Mm.
or any of those, I'm not just picking on Coke, but any
Mhm.
of the sodas, um, and they're having say, a bottle of it even. I mean, they could be eating everything else healthy, but what is just the sugar in those few things doing?
Right, right. So unhealthy. Like I like flavored water. Like I have, a healthy one here. I do hydrogen water. I'll put, little packets of hydrogen in my waters, just to make the flavor, But yeah, I can't do sodas. Not
That's
good.
a new one for me. What's the hydrogen you put in the water? What is that?
Yeah, it's just a little packet, hydrogen water. It just, yeah, it's a new thing that's kind of come out that a lot of people are doing. I actually have a jar that does the molecular hydrogen as well. But yeah, just for me, it's the flavor too. Just getting a little something without sugar.
So it actually flavors it as well.
Hmm.
Because I know I'll
Hmm.
drink sometimes the sparkling waters that don't have the sugar in there. And
Hmm.
it has all the different flavors, but honestly, for the most part, they all taste the same to me because there's not much flavor.
Yeah.
I mean, I got used to it at first. I was thinking, oh, this is disgusting because I was so used to having. But now I will say that if I have something that used to be what I needed, like a lemonade or something like that, your body adjusts very much where I'm thinking, oh, this is really sweet. This is
Hmm.
really kind of over. I know there's been people that I've known that are diabetics that don't drink the sugar. So if you give them something all of a sudden that has that in there, it's totally too sweet for them because their body is adjusted. So,
Yeah, I think
so
we've
people,
been programmed for that to taste bad, right? If it's good for you, it doesn't taste good because we're used to all the crud in our food, that makes it addictive.
so fruits, vegetables, what about meats? I mean,
I'm a meat eater. I mean, I grew up on a cattle ranch. I'm an archery hunter. I do all of it. I think you need that for iron, but I mean, it's everybody's body's different, and I wouldn't tell anyone to do what they should or shouldn't do with that. But I just feel like we need to be our own advocates for what
right.
fits our body and getting to the root cause. You can do blood work, but I just recently did saliva and urine testing, and the saliva was every 4 hours. They've created compounds that are specifically for me,
Mm,
hormonally, due to, my cancer, right? So, just getting to the root cause of you, because what's working for you may not work for me, right? And
gotcha.
that's where I feel functional and integrative medicine is just so much healthier, because you're getting to the bottom of what's happening inside your body, not just a number, statistic based on one blood draw at a certain time during the day.
Sure. Okay. So if a person wants to modify their exercise, get out in the sun, get their feet on the ground, cut out a lot of the sugars, get some better breathing, and filter out some of all the extra medications that maybe they don't need to be taking as much, then what are some of these other, how would they go about some of what you just said if they're trying to find out a way? Because if you go to your doctor's office, your normal doctor's office, and say, I need something specifically for what's going on in my body. For the most part, they're just going to give you a drug, and that's pretty
Mhm.
much it. They're giving to everybody. So, how does a person get that customization like you're talking about? What are some sources to do that for?
Yeah, I mean, it would just be finding a functional or an integrative medicine doctor near you.
Okay.
It's out of pocket, that's the struggle, but I know what cancer cost me. I know what almost overdosing on pharmaceuticals cost me, right? So
Right.
I don't, I go once a year typically, and yeah, it's out of pocket, but it's worth every penny.
Yeah. How much does it cost you to not have it? Correct.
Yeah, and the first one I started seeing, he spent 6 hours with me.
Hmm.
And right now, and you look on TV, every commercial is a pharmaceutical. And the United States and Australia are the only two countries that allow direct to consumer pharmaceutical advertising. I think they're in the process of getting rid of that. So then you go to your doctor, due to insurance and the time limits, you maybe get 10 minutes with your doctor. So you're sitting there trying to convince your doctor about a medication you might need because you saw it on TV and you think it might help you,
Right.
right? They just don't, unfortunately, don't have the time for it, and the time to treat you personally, and that's how the system unfortunately has become. It doesn't make them bad or anything. I think everyone goes into their career but truly wanting to help people.
Sure.
But you look back to our ancestors, what did they use for healing? They used plants, they used herbs, they used the earth. I mean, I have my product does some grounding, but I had a gentleman in North Dakota who had West Nile and he had to sleep on the ground. Even if it was well below zero, the frequency from the earth was the only way that he could sleep and that helped him heal. Right.
Mm.
And so there's so many, it was natural, and yes, I do believe there's a place for some and certain instances, of course, energy or emergency medicine, but yeah, it's just getting back to the root of everything and what you can naturally do.
Yeah, you mentioned those commercials that we see all the time, and then there's the over half the commercial are the disclosures at the end,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
About
suicide, you may lose an arm, you may, it's like,
exactly. They were trying to give me something because I had some bouts with psoriasis here and there, and so they
mhm,
were trying to, um, I was looking at some of those commercials for that, and I was also researching, okay, how does it stop it from doing that, and all the things that it's actually doing to your body. And finally, I thought to myself, I think I'd rather just have the psoriasis than have the effects of all the stuff that it's going to do, what it's going to shut down, how it's not going to fight off other things because it's shutting down the immune system and slowing it
mhm,
down and doing all of that. And by the time you see all the threats, I mean, yeah, literally, it's like you have this little problem here, but if you
mhm.
take this, you could end up, losing your sight and even die.
Yeah,
Um,
and then you need another pill for that,
Yeah,
you
and,
know.
and then after they give you all the side effects, they say, "So talk to your doctor and see if this is right for you today." And it's like
Well,
the whole thing doesn't even make rational sense when you think
yeah,
about
there's
it.
a book out there. It's called Our Daily Meds by Melody Beatty. And it came out, I don't know, it's quite a few years ago, but like the United States, I mean, one, we're the unhealthiest, but we take more pharmaceuticals than all the other countries combined.
Yeah,
It's a problem.
that is kind of crazy. And it seems that we're in a culture, whether it's with this, same thing with the mental health, with everything.
Hmm.
We're in a culture now where if you feel any type of pain or you feel any type of anything that isn't pleasant, you need
Hmm.
to find a way to numb it and get rid of it right away.
Yep.
And in the faith context, I mean, we know that although we don't long after pain, doesn't even God use our pain and our disappointments and the hard times and everything that we see scripturally to grow us and to strengthen us?
Yeah.
We've got a generation now that can't seem to cope with anything.
Mm-mm.
Where even if they're not feeling okay in class and they're a little stressed out because they don't want to do work, they'll send them to a wellness center and let them just kind of sit there and unwind because they're stressed out because the teacher wanted them to actually listen in the classroom.
Right.
What are we creating here? I mean, we
Yeah.
didn't have that when we were younger. I mean, you sucked it up and you found a way,
Hmm.
and
And
we're
the
better.
anxiety.
Yeah, we're better for it because we had to do that.
Hmm.
We've got children now that are, I've counseled some where they literally tried to kill themselves or hurt themselves, and I asked them what happened, and it was nothing. I mean, it was barely anything, and I try to be sympathetic, but there's a part of me inside that wants to look at them and go, "Are you kidding me?
Right.
You don't get to almost kill yourself for that." I
Right.
mean, and yet there's no coping skills, and it's just mind-boggling.
Well, and what's going
Absolutely.
to happen when they do have, real world life problems,
Yeah, I
It's
mean, it's
heartbreaking.
absolutely. So,
Yeah.
well, we could go on for 2, 3 hours. I don't know that anyone would listen that long, but because the attention span today is about 7 minutes, but if
Yeah.
that, on some of these videos, it's crazy when we bring this up because I was looking at YouTube algorithms and when they'll promote a video and when they won't. They look
Mm-hmm.
for videos that a person stays on at least 7 minutes and then they'll
Mm-hmm.
promote it. It's very hard to do that. If you look at the analytics, often it's like 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 20. It's like, what is going on? People just scroll.
Yep.
So,
Yep. But we've been programmed to scroll, it's the
exactly.
dopamine, it's like one hit to the next to the next, and it's kind of screwed up.
It's crazy. Well, Danielle, if a person wants to learn more about the products you have, about the programs that you have, what it is that you're doing, what's the best way to kind of contact you?
Yeah, through my website, bravehearthw.com. So, Braveheart Health and Wellness, that's my name. I feel, it's just kind of who I am. I'm very heart-centered, relationship based. And yeah, it's just, that would probably be the best way. You can schedule an appointment with me through my website.
Awesome. So I encourage you, we'll get that link in the description as well, but I encourage you to connect there and to find out more about what Danielle's doing and her life journey and some of these things that have changed her health and her well-being, because I'm sure that it could be a benefit to you or someone that you love. And if you're out there right now and you've benefited from this podcast and you're thinking of people in your life right now who need to hear this, then click the link to this thing and send it to them so that they can also see it and find out some of this information and maybe wake up to some of the things that they're dealing with as well. And please subscribe to the podcast so you catch all the episodes because we have a lot of them out there and a lot to come in the near future. So, Danielle, thank you again for the time
Thank
that we've
you.
had today. I look forward to continuing to be connected in the future with you. And may God bless everyone that's watched this today. And we will see you next time on the Audacious Faith Podcast.